Stars, cars, guitars. Coming up.
Rock and roll should always have a slight element of danger about it. You should feel that the guys are on the edge a bit.
This bunch of guys just come right.
I've got a story to tell which is very racy. I'm going to call it racy because it involves a race.
To be honest, Jim, I should have done that. I should have just stopped, gone over him.
I've got to be honest, this is one of my favourites we've ever done. Not only was Jim on top form and Tony was on top form, we also had a quick story and a Martha. Shut up.
This is Stars, Cars, Guitars with Tony Hadley, Jim Cregan and Alex Dyke.
Let's get this show on the road. It's Stars, Cars, Guitars, and look, there they all are, looking wonderful. The lovely Jim Cregan and Tony Hadley, the fantastic Tony Hadley. Hello, guys.
Hello.
How are you, mate? You all right? You okay?
Hello, Petal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't that what someone called you in a car park today, Jim?
Yeah, I was going to ask you. I mean, it hasn't happened to me for a long time because I was wearing a mask and I had this yellow scarf around my neck. Some bloke thought I was a woman and called me darling a couple of times. And even though I went, "Oh, that's all right, hello, mate," he still kept calling me darling. I'm either going to get laid tonight by him or he's needs new glasses. I've had that thing where people have said to me, this is when I was a lot younger, I had long hair and a ponytail and things. They say, "What are you? You a boy or a girl?" And I'd say, "Just leave me alone for half an hour with your daughter and we'll find out."
Oh, Jim.
That's terrible. I tell you what, it is funny, people's reactions, especially in places like America. I remember once when we were doing, we were filming the I'll Fly For You video down in New Orleans, actually, but we were outside of New Orleans and we were going to film by the Mississippi, and we fed crocodiles and alligators and stuff like that. It was amazing. And we went into a sort of small kind of grocery store, and the guys in that, we all looked a bit strange, I suppose. It was in the early days of sort of 1984, I think it was. And the guys in the band, everyone except me, had earrings in. Yeah. And these guys, the kind of real kind of, all right, and they go, "What the goddamn hell just walked in the goddamn faggots?" And it was like openly just being so rude. It was unbelievable. And it was very. You go down to some of those places in sort of Southern America, and especially in those days, because they weren't used to seeing people with earrings and strange clothes. Yeah, very rude. Actually, very rude.
Yeah, no, I get it. It was, but I think that was going on. I mean, from the time the Stones started, when the long hair arrived, and everybody started looking different. That generation, which I'm from, all looked different. We were constantly being barraged with insults and all sorts of nonsense. But it didn't, it never deterred any of us, as far as I could tell. I mean, it just wound us up until we did more.
Made you more deterred. Well, Steve Strange, bless him. Steve Strange used to run he was in Visage, he used to run the door at the Blitz and everything. And he grew up in Wales, just not far from Tiger Bay. And some of the stories he used to tell, literally running down the street dressed as Robin Hood. It's like, it was like an episode of Only Fools and Horses. But he had some, down to, in those kind of areas there, it was rough. And if you were different, wow, you really going to get one of those.
I've got a story like that about when I was in a band called Blossom Toes back in the late 60s. And we were playing a club in Newcastle. We worked all over the country. We had long hair and we wore we were hippies, right? We played psychedelic music and all that stuff, right? And it was a very successful working band. And we were playing this gig in Newcastle, and the opening act came off. The guy was wearing a leather jacket, and he out of his pocket, he took a pistol and put it down on the table, and then took the jacket off and was getting changed. We were just getting ready to walk on.
Where was this, Jim?
I said this was in Newcastle, in a club in Newcastle.
Newcastle?
Yeah.
Not America?
No, Newcastle.
No, okay.
Newcastle, yeah. Newcastle on Tyne. And I said to the guy, "Oh, okay, that part of your stage act, that's unusual." And he said to me, you haven't played it before, have you? Right before we went on, I was like, oh my God, help. We got away with it, nobody threw anything at us, but it was definitely a moment of fright. I was, we all went on very timid to begin with, till the audience kind of warmed up to us. But boy,
well, I suppose in those days, years ago, like I said, anybody that was different, dressed differently, if you had a bit of makeup on or whatever, or your hair was too long, but certain parts of the country, it was just not acceptable. And a follow-on story from Steve Strange, we were down in the sort of Tiger Bay area, and we were playing a gig, early Spandau gig, I think even before we were signed. And it was a pretty successful gig. But then at the end of it, when we were all packing up our equipment, because we had like one road crew then, so we all had to do our own equipment, this bunch of guys just come running in, ready to smash up the place. Getting pieces of drum kit, cymbal stands. People flying off the stage. I mean, these guys were heavy duty, and it was something out of the OK Corral. And just because we all look different, it's bizarre.
We should talk about gigs that have gone wrong, because it must be awful if you're in the middle of it and you're on stage and something goes wrong. Maybe the audience are aware, maybe they're not. And there must be a point where you want just to be the ground to swallow you up. But you've got to, I guess, in most cases, soldier on.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean, not a rock and roll story, but when I was playing Billy Flynn in Chicago, in the West End, which was great fun. I really enjoyed it. I've never done it before, and it was a great experience for 3.5 months. But there was one night, there's a big scene at the end called Courtroom Scene, and Billy Flynn's leaning against the wall, and he has to cross-examine Mr. Casey and everything else. I completely forgot the next line. Everyone is on stage and everybody moves to Billy Flynn's words. So I've completely forgotten all the words, and I'm cross-examining Mr. Casey and everything else, and I'm literally hamming it big time, and I'm just making up all the dialogue. But of course, no one on stage can do the next move until I do the right line. There's a girl at the side of the stage shouting the words to me. And of course, when that happens, you just go, the sweat was dripping. I mean, I could feel myself sweating, getting really hot and everything else. Eventually, the line came to me. Everybody could make the next move. And I remember coming off stage, and Alex was there, and he had a box of tissues. He said, I think you'll be needing these. And I was backstage going, I'm so sorry, everybody. I said, hey, listen, it happens to everybody. But it happened by all accounts to Marty Pello at the exact same scene. And he just went to the side of the stage, got the script, and went, okay, and carried on.
Oh, brilliant.
But the interesting thing is that nobody in the audience noticed, because I just literally made up all the time. Nobody noticed that this 30 or 40 seconds, and that's all it really was, but it felt like a long time. I was just bluffing it. So, terrible, awful moment, awful.
Some people have got the ability to ad-lib, and some people don't. I mean, it's in all kinds of art forms that in music and in, I guess, in dance, and I guess in a bit difficult to ad-lib in painting. Although I suppose if you're what's his name, Pollock, you can ad-lib spraying the thing on it.
When you're singing along the words and you can't remember the words on stage, and you say, a sugar and who hurt you happy and who hurt you
all the time. Oh dear. Now, I've got a really recent one, right? Which is, given the fact that I'm going to be 75 next month, this is quite recent. This was last year. So was it last year, or maybe it was the year before? Anyway, we're doing a charity event with the Faces, the three guys that are left in the Faces, Kenny, Rod, and Roddy. And my band, Cregan and Co, are going to play. Rod's going to sing with us, right? Because the Faces aren't going to do Rod Stewart tunes; they're going to do Faces tunes. But because Rod's there, he agrees he's going to sing 4 or 5 tunes with us, and that goes really well. And then Ronnie comes on, and our drummer goes off, and Kenny comes on, and we play a couple of tunes, and then we're getting ready to go into "Losing You," which is a quite famous cover from the Faces, and without consulting with my guitar tech, right, who was in the wings, there's guitars on the stage on stands. I pick up this Les Paul, right, and I'm waiting because Ronnie's doing Ronnie plays the intro on his own, and then you're waiting for this moment where he does the big reveal, the da-da-da-da-dong, bang, dang, da-da-da-dong, down, down, and I pick up the Les Paul, I play the big D, right? Oh, and the only thing is, it's not in D, it's tuned to D flat, because it was going to be the guitar I was supposed to use on a different tune. Oh, Ronnie's head nearly came off his neck as he turned around and looked at me so quickly. What? And I went, oh, no. And so I had to take the guitar off and sort of look at everybody really sheepishly and put on the right guitar and then join in on the song, for the ending. But my God, when that first hit, that D chord was a D flat. My God, I felt so bad.
Oh,
I felt sick.
I can't imagine what. Oh no, but when you're relying on. Sorry. But when you're relying on people on stage, though, to do all the bits and bobs. I remember I was doing a big festival, and I had this big sort of dance record out in Belgium and Holland, and working with Milk Inc., my mates. And I remember saying to the sound guy, he said, I want you to use in-ears. I said, can I just use the monitors? No, you've got to use in-ears. And he refused to let me use the monitors. So I went on stage, 10,000 people in this auditorium. And I went on, nothing in the monitors, which he said there was going to be nothing, and nothing in the in-ears. Not a sausage, not the tune, not my voice, nothing. And I'm literally just having to cut my ear and try and listen to the ambient sound. And of course, I'm out of time. I'm out of tune. It was, and I think, and it was televised as well. I could have killed him. Literally could have killed him.
Yeah, it's terrible. Yeah, I agree. Awful. It's awful. It's almost worth stopping the show at that moment,
To be honest, Jim, I should have done that. I should have just stopped, gone over, hit him, and pressed the button myself.
The awful thing about that is anyone in the audience would leave saying, whoever it is, and it happened to be you.
Rubbish, yeah. That's the problem.
And also, if it's televised, it's up on YouTube. That must be awful for you.
Tony bought the rights to that bit of YouTube, and he's had it burnt in his ceremoniously in his back garden.
Yeah, one of those horrible moments. Not one of my proudest.
No, not really your fault.
Spare a thought for the MC, the DJ who's going out to work the crowd in between the bands, and you are like dirt to the road crew. So you're out there DJing, trying to keep the crowd warm so that when one of you guys on, you can hit the ground running, and they're tuning guitars through the monitors, which of course the crowd can't hear, but you're up on the stage and all you're getting is the 1 2 1 2 1 2 and then wow as they're trying to, and you mean nothing to the road crew or to the musicians, and all you're trying to do is help guys like you.
Yeah, I have to say, Alex,
on behalf of the band, I apologise.
It's a really awful situation. Those kind of things are terrible, and you guys, they do look at you as the poor relation, which is it's just wrong. You're doing a job, and you should be respected for it. But there are times when I've heard some absolute, like you say, some horror stories, and they're wow, chicken drums and stuff like that. I had one in Italy, and we were doing a gig, and unbeknownst to me, next door there was a DJ playing, like all this going on, right? So I'm playing this gig, and there's a rave going on, literally with just a curtain in between. So, of course, the rave was at volume level. And, mate, I absolutely, I lost it. I went absolutely ballistic. I ran off that stage. And, I told him in no uncertain terms, to please stop.
In English or Italian?
It was a universal language, Jim.
I get that the DJ is just a warm-up act and it's all about the live tone. I haven't got a problem with that. It's just when you're tripping over the gear as well and they're moving things and you're getting hit in the back with an amplifier or whatever as you're trying to do your job, and that all they want is the main turn. I get that. Okay, so here we are. Then it's Stars, Cars, Guitars with Tony Hadley, Jim Cregan, and me, Alex Dyke. Wherever you get your podcast from, if you're watching this on YouTube and you're thinking, I'd like to listen to this in my car, you can get this wherever you get your podcast from. And if you're listening to this at the moment in your car and you want to see what we look like, you can go to our YouTube channel. If you're on our YouTube channel now, please subscribe, click like, and ring our bell.
That sounds rude.
Fellas, I want to talk to you about the greatest love song ever. This one keeps coming back to me, and I don't think you can beat it. All right. I've got the lyrics here. You're going to know this song as soon as I give you the first line. As I walk this land with broken dreams. Maybe you won't. Second line.
No, I know the song. Yeah.
I thought you were
as I walk this land with broken dreams. Da 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 da. Yeah.
I have
more money. He's going to want more money now. You realise that?
Every word in this lyric matters. As I walk this land with broken dreams, I have visions of many things, but happiness is just an illusion, filled with sadness and confusion. What becomes of the broken-hearted? Is there a lyric better than that?
Oh, that's a tricky. That's all subjective, isn't it? That's a wonderful lyric. It is a wonderful.
That's a brilliant lyric. Yeah, it is fantastic.
Is that Holland Dozier Holland?
Yeah, well, I would imagine it is because it's Jimmy Ruffin, isn't it? And I interviewed Jimmy Ruffin once, and we were sat backstage, and I said, "Do you get fed up with singing this song every night?" And he gave me like they say, they gave you evils. He said, "You got to be joking." He was quite taken. He said, "You got to be joking. It's one of the greatest songs of ever, and it's my song. Of course, I don't ever get fed up with singing that song." And I did feel a fool, and he rightly put me in my place.
But that I get that completely, because I get asked all the time, do you get tired and bored of singing True Gold and Through the Barricades and whatever? And I said no, because it's part of my life. And I've seen, and I'm sure you guys have seen as well, so many artists that go on stage, deny their past, say, I'm just going to sing my whole new concept album. It's like daft as a brush. I'm not going to sing any of my hits. And those songs mean something to you, but they mean something to people out there. When you sing True, for instance, you could see people getting that was their wedding song, that was their love song, that was their first meeting their girlfriend, boyfriend song. And so it's so important to give people what they want. But I never, ever get bored of singing those songs at all. And I've even seen people walking out of a David Bowie concert, and I love David Bowie. I didn't walk out, but people walked out because he either played his hits in such a way that they were unrecognisable, or he didn't play them. And you just saw droves of people going to the bars. I think this was Wembley or Earl's Court. I couldn't believe it. And that was David Bowie. So
it's not a good idea to not sing or not perform many of your biggest records, because the reason that you're in that room on that stage is because of those records. So the people have come to, and your fame is based on those tunes. So it's kind of daft not to. I mean, if you're one of those people that can have a hit every 3 or 4 years, so you've constantly got new stuff coming out that's successful, that's different. But mostly, if you've got 5 or maybe even 10 songs in your repertoire that are really, really successful tunes that have been big hits, God bless you. You need to play those 10 songs and play another 10 of the things that you maybe want to play. So you've definitely got to do those 10.
Well, that's the way I look at it. It's really good to play, your hits and stuff like that. But it's also really nice to, I think it's important as artists to write new material as well. And it's always great when you've played a couple of your hits or whatever, and you say, guys, look, I just want you to check this new song out. I just want to play a new song for you. And when that goes down quite well, that's really rewarding. But you've got to play your hit records. You have to.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it'd be silly. People do try to get away with not playing them, but I don't think that's that very fair. But as we talked about the other day, I don't think it's very fair that you don't give them the songs they want, and also if you're not actually singing live, I think that's another bit of cheating. I think the people who come to your audience, the audience that come to your gigs, expect they expect you to be live. That would be nice. I remember a name that I won't bother mentioning, where he had some of the finest session musicians in the world in his band, because that was going to look great, and they weren't actually what you were hearing. You were hearing the track.
I'm not going to mention any names, but I think I know who you're talking about.
It was really hard. It's heartbreaking. The guys who signed up to do the tour, who would be able to earn loads of money staying at home playing, wanted to get out and play live as a change, not be in the studio all the time.
Yeah.
And then they get out there, they don't actually. That's not actually what the audience is hearing.
On behalf of our audience, can I just say there's nothing more frustrating when people say, "Look, I know some. I can't mention their name." I'm thinking, please mention their name. I understand why you can't, but that's so frustrating.
Okay, well, you can cut this bit out if you want, then, because it was George Michael.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's something that you had in your head, Tony.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah.
Why do we have to cut that out?
You don't. Then don't.
I don't think we should.
Okay.
It's not a personal attack on him. I'm just really, really, really surprised that an artist like him. What Tone? Why do you think he would have done that? You knew him.
Yeah, I think knowing George, he would have done that because he wanted everything to sound exactly perfect and wonderful and just, I suppose, exactly like the record. I mean,
yeah,
I'm the sort of artist, I don't want it to sound like the record. I want it to sound kind of like the record, but I don't want it to sound exactly like the record. I know loads of artists that spend time just making sure that every tiny little thing is reproduced live from the record. Really? It should be an interpretation of the song that you've recorded, but it should have an energy live that you haven't got on the record. A record's one thing, but when you play live, it's a whole different ballgame. And knowing George, bless him, an amazing voice and a smashing fella as well. He did like that control element, and I'd heard exactly the same thing.
Yeah. I wonder if we've come full circle with this, because when I bought live albums in the 70s, there was always that disappointment that they never sounded like the hits. They didn't sound enough like the hit singles. And then by the time we were getting to, I guess the first biggie was Live and Dangerous from Thin Lizzy.
Thin Lizzy.
But apparently there was a lot of tinkering in the studio with that live album before it went out. So it was live and then stuff was edited and added. But a great live album nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, the one that I remember and I saw Peter Frampton many times was Frampton Comes Alive. And then someone told me that was all actually recorded in the studio. I don't know how true this is. And then audiences were, sort of layered on top, all the crowds and stuff. I don't know. But, I mean, Frampton Comes Alive for me was great. And also a great live performer as well.
Yeah.
Jim, can you shed any light on that, Jim? You were in LA at the time, weren't you?
Yeah, I mixed with, I think, probably George Tutko probably, and I mixed the Rod Stewart's Absolutely Live record. And we deliberately didn't tart it up. We said, let's this be, because in brackets it says mistakes and all, I think. And that's exactly what we did. We put the album out. I left some ambient sound in there so you could hear the crowd. And we didn't tart it up at all. We tarted up the Unplugged record, the Unplugged television show. We re-recorded the orchestra because there was too much drums and other things coming down the orchestra mics. We didn't really have an orchestra, we had a string section. I'm boasting about the orchestra. It was just a complete lie. Sorry about that. But we redid some of the backing vocals that were a bit out of tune. But the most of it from the Absolutely Live was Absolutely Live. No, sorry, Absolutely Live was Absolutely Live. We're talking about the Unplugged record. That was about 90% live, just here and there. A couple of things were added in to make it sound better. But the thing that, after we'd done the Absolutely Live record, which is years and years and years ago, sort of a couple of weeks later, the Eagles live record came out, and it sounded exactly like the studio record. And we all went, well, maybe we should have done that then, because that was a huge hit and ours wasn't.
Oh,
and the impression was definitely, you probably should have made it sound a bit more like the studio record, you lot, instead of making it sound like it's live.
Have you watched the DVD of the Eagles, that live, when they're all on acoustic guitars on the stalls and everything? And
is that the Hell Freezes Over, when they open up with Hotel California with a complete rearrangement? Yeah, that's fabulous.
I haven't seen that, no.
It's amazing. I mean, but I don't know how much of that is completely live, or it was. It sounds $1 million. I mean, it just is. I mean, I'm a massive Don Henley fan, Eagles, Glenn Fry. But it's interesting. When I was in America last, we were doing. I don't know if I mentioned this, but we were doing a concert outside a hotel. All the crowd were going to be in the swimming pool, which was brilliant. It was great fun. And a guy came over to me and said, "Hey, man," he said, "Hey, the sound guy, you got sequences?" I said, "Well, we've got a couple of little things, but basically everything's live. We play live." He said, "What about the lead vocals?" So I said, No, it's the lead vocals live." "What, completely live?" I said, "Yeah, completely live." That's a terrible American accent, by the way. I did do Billy Flynn. So I said, "No, it's completely live." He said, "Hey, buddy, in this town, nobody sings live." And I said, "Are you kidding me?" And then he started telling me, he said, how many artists that you big, wonderful singers are not singing live, or they're going through, there's this new thing where they're going through auto-tuning. So, let's say if I hit a bum note, I'm going to hit a bum note. It's live is live. That's why I loved people like Freddie Mercury and stuff and all the greats, because it was real. And, Rod's made some howlers in his time and stuff, but, what a voice. And we all do. He sings live and he's got a great voice.
Too. The band is live. Yeah.
But, we've all made the odd mistake here and there. And I would hate for it to think that my voice was going through this bloody auto-tune thing, coming out going No,
I get that.
Fellas, can we get back to this? Because my arm's starting to ache. The roots of love grow all around, but for me, they come a tumbling down. Everyday heartaches grow a little stronger. I can't take this pain much longer. Is there a better lyric to a love song than Jimmy Ruffin's What Becomes of the Broken-Hearted? I don't think there is.
I think Renee and Renata, saving all your kisses, that's a love song.
Jim? Come on, Jim, you be serious with me. There is no better love song.
Okay, well, what becomes of the broken-hearted is the broken-hearted song. When you say love song, it's also should include songs that are dedicated to in a very warm, loving way towards your partner or who you want to be with. But to me, and this is funny, this is a strange thing, given how many millions of records have been made. My very dear friend Robert Allen, who's now retired, but is a very famous music business lawyer, one of the very best in Britain, and a real music aficionado. And I was round his house one night, sampling the grape, and we got into discussing what we thought were our favourite. What record would you say is the best record that you can think of on that particular day? And he had a list, and he'd written it down. And I said, well, for me, it would be Yvonne Ellison's "Stay With Me, Baby." That would be probably one of the records that can still bring me to tears, even though I've heard it 1,000 times. And I looked at his list, and at the top of his list was "Stay With Me, Baby," Lorraine Emerson. So back to you, Alex, on what I think is one of the greatest love songs in the world. It's that one.
Okay, well, let me just leave you with this. Hoping and praying for someone to care, always moving and going nowhere. That could make me cry on a good day.
Yeah, it's a great song.
Brilliant lyrics. Brilliant lyrics. There's also, I mean, Rod covered the Van Morrison, Have I Told You Lately That I Love You? Which I think that's a great song. And then there's the Eric, Wonderful Tonight, Eric Clapton.
Yeah, beautiful. That's
no, I've got to stop you there. No way, Wonderful. He is a lazy drunk who gets his wife to drive him home. She's getting ready. She's putting on our makeup. And he is a lazy drunk he hands her the car keys. That is, I'm afraid that is not a great love song.
Well, I quite like it.
Stars, Cars, Guitars. Subscribe. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and starscarsguitars.co.uk.
So we're back in the room and Jim is champing at the bit.
Yes. Well, we were talking about people who want perfection in their performances, and this relates to. I think I've told the story about playing at the wedding reception of Steven Seagal and Kelly LeBrock. Right, Kelly LeBrock was a friend of mine, and I got invited to be in this band. And the band was not at all shabby. This was the one that had Lamont Dozier from Holland Dozier Holland, right, one of the great songwriters of our generation. And it had Phil Chen on bass, who's a great bass player, and I was playing guitar, so that's a weak spot there. And the drummer from Bob Dylan on drums, and Jackson Browne was going to do some of his songs, and that's fine, you know. I met Jackson; he's a lovely chap and everything. And then we started rehearsing. We had one little rehearsal in the afternoon before the reception, and Jackson we were recording one of his tunes. We all knew the song; it wasn't very difficult, but we weren't playing like the record. And then Phil Chen, who's a magnificent bass player, was asked to play the slide down from one octave to the other, so like going boom, right at this moment in the song. And Phil went boom, and Jackson said, "No, it doesn't go like that. It goes like this." Boom. We all went, "I can't hear any difference." Phil played boom. Jackson said, "No." Boom. So this went on for a few minutes, it seemed, and everybody's looking at Jackson Browne, going, "Are you out of your mind? You know, this is a wedding band we put together here for fun, and nobody's getting paid. We're doing this for nothing, right? And you're telling Phil Chen how to play a slide down on the bass guitar in exactly the way that it was on the record." And everybody really kind of copped the needle with him on that. And we played the gig, and it was nice, you know. And there's some great songs. We did some Temptation songs and things like that with Lamont Dozier singing. It was fantastic. I'm pinching myself. I'm standing next to him, and then we all went our way. But I carry away from that this thought about Jackson Browne. Yeah, that's where the vibe went. The vibe went.
What is that? Is that a control thing? Do you think?
He used to rehearse the band. The sound check was a full rehearsal every night before the show. And talk about taking the guts out of a gig. Right, the show's an hour and a half long. You've already played it once, and I've only ever done a couple of those gigs where you have a matinee, if you like, and let's say 4 o'clock, and then you have a real show at 9. I've done that a couple of times, and it's really weird, and I don't like it. But to do the whole sound check, Jackson would make them do the whole sound check as a show, and would sit up in the audience sometimes and listen to it and make comments. I mean, you want it to be right, but you want the rock and roll or music, popular music, should always have a slight element of danger about it. You should feel that the guys are on the edge a bit, you know. And those are the most. That's why people like the Faces and the Stones and the Who are so successful.
Yeah.
There's danger involved in these performances. Pete Townsend, you know, he's going to break his arm.
That's exactly the word, Jim. It is danger. It's that sense of danger. When I talk about Freddie Mercury, sometimes he would go for a note live, and you're not sure if he's going to get it because he's got an amazing voice, but you know what? He would always take a chance and take a risk.
Yeah,
and that's what I've always loved about his style of singing. He would take a risk, and sometimes I've done that. I've gone for the most ridiculous thing, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't.
That's the beauty. That's the beauty.
What about as a promoter, sometimes we get contracts through and you're doing a festival and the management say, well, what about the sound check? What about the rehearsal? And we're saying, no, it's only a line check because you've got 20 minutes between acts going on and off. That must be, and I would imagine, Tone, when you're doing shows like the Let's Rock shows and the big retro one, Rewind and program and shows like that must be very, very intense for you. And I don't know, Jim, whether you've done as many of those, but that must be stressy.
I have to say, no. I'll tell you for what. I'll tell you for why. Because we've got such a fabulous crew. I mean, some of our crew guys have been, wow, RJ must have been with us 25 years now, I think, you know. And we've got, you know, the whole team are so, they are brilliant, actually. I mean, they're friends of ours as well as, you know, working with us as well. But I just trust them implicitly. And RJ, who's our monitor guy, for instance, I mean, when I did the Spandau tour, I wanted RJ there because he gets me he knows what sound I want, which saves my voice so I can sing night after night after night and I don't get too tired. But when we're doing those festivals, generally speaking, the guys are right on it. So I don't overly worry, no.
Kim? I'm with you on that. It's the same thing. Great crew. Occasionally, you'll have somebody mess up where the monitor guy has got somebody's channel muted. Yeah. You know, that kind of problem. I've had that a couple of times, but mostly, yeah. But mostly, the crews that the festival provide generally are spot on. They're great guys. You know, they really know what they're doing. You bring your own front of house guy, you bring your own monitor guy, you bring your own the guitar people and back line crew. So really, they'll check enough before you actually play a note that it will be all right. The thing I worry about, of course, is there's a cold wind blowing across the stage and the guitars will go out of tune, or the guitar I'm wearing goes out of tune as soon as I touch it. But I'm going to blame that on the weather rather than my inability to be able to play the guitar properly.
Jim, are you saying that the wind can detune a guitar?
Oh, yeah, quickly, yeah.
I never knew that.
If it's cold, it's freezing cold.
Yeah.
Can I just add? But you're right. I mean, apart from our crew, the crew, like all the Let's Rock crews, for instance, are, you know, we know them, they're a great bunch of guys. They make sure that it all works out, and they work. And the great thing is that they work really well with our crew as well. So it's almost seamless. There's never a couple of times you've worked with crews that kind of, it's almost like a fight between your crew and the sort of stage crew. But most of the time they work together and it's almost seamless. So it's pretty good. But no, cold's terrible with guitars.
I've got a story to tell, which is very, shall I say, racy. I'm going to call it racy because it involves a race. And it involves exactly the subject you were talking about, the local crew versus the band crew. Okay, so this takes place in Australia at the end of a Rod Stewart tour. We've toured, we've played all over Australia, New Zealand, or no, maybe we haven't got
Sorry.
That's all right. And so the two crews get together. And this is only hearsay. Right, because obviously I wasn't. Very rarely do the band get invited to the crew dinner. This is a crew dinner, so there may be 50 people, and the Australians challenge the British to a race, and this is called the Dance of the Flaming Arseholes. Okay,
I know this one.
You know this story, right?
I know what the Dance of the Flaming Arseholes is.
So after dinner is finished, this challenge goes out, and the table is kind of cleared as much as possible. And the two contestants, one from our crew, one from their crew, with their trousers down as far as their ankles, are put onto. They stand on the table, and a piece of newspaper is rolled up, and they have to clench the newspaper between their cheeks of their bottom, and it's set fire to, and they have to run the length of the table. Right? And the first person to get to the end without their bum burning wins. And the Australians, I think, won on this occasion because they've done it rather a lot more than our lads.
The thing is, though, the stuff you do on the road, though, just so stupid. It's like, you're like, we're all grown-up guys, but we're still doing stupid stuff. Dance of the Flaming Arseholes is a great one. I love that. Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah. Tone, is that an admission? Have you too done that dance?
No, I haven't. No. Yeah, Tone. Ah, okay.
Tone?
Okay, Tone.
A yes or no will suffice.
It might have been an occasion. and the other one, Jim, have you ever done the Dam Busters?
Oh, I don't know that one.
So you get a bowl or a pint glass, and you all line up in a line, and you stick something between the clench it between your butt cheeks, and you all kind of do low level marching. So there's about 6 or 7 of you all going down, and then you stop above the pint glass and you drop the coin in the glass. It's the stupidest thing, but it's funny. It is funny. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. You just have to hope that you're in a private room in a restaurant, or you've taken the restaurant over for the night, and there aren't any people sitting in a corner watching this with horror.
Oh, good.
These are the days before mobile phone cameras, so that's why we could get away with it, because otherwise somebody would film this, and that would be the end of it. That would be the end of it.
That's the end of my career anyway.
Yeah,
just
pretty well, yeah. Well, either that or you get invited to every tour there is.
Well, guys, you really, really have shared with us this time round on Stars, Cars, Guitars. Thank you so much.
I just hope my mum's not going to watch this.
Tone was in tears there. And I've got to be honest, this is one of my favourites we've ever done. Not only was Jim on top form and Tony was on top form, we also had a quick story, and a Martha. Shut up.
Cheers, look.
Sausages.
Yeah,
okay.
Sausages.
She's cute. Listening at home, we're looking at a beautiful it's a long-haired dachshund. Is that what she is?
A wire-haired miniature dachshund.
Oh, wide.
Yeah.
Okay.
She is lovely.
Yeah, cute.
Go on, off you go then. Go on.
Right, guys. Well, we'll see you next time on Stars, Cars, Guitars.
Thanks, Alex. Lovely seeing you all.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thanks,
very funny.
Great.
Very funny.
Great. God bless you all. Bye.
Oh dear. That was fun. My jaw was aching then. Oh, laughing so much.
Stars, Cars, Guitars was produced by Tom Stroud.